Okay, I found the quote I was looking for. This directly relates to how the conception of American liberty, which began with the founding of the Republic, ultimately collapses in on itself. This is from Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Now, a lot of people think that Roe v. Wade is the abortion legislation. And it's not really. If you read Roe v. Wade, it boils down to, we don't want to have an opinion on this right now, so we're just going to ignore it. It was in, I believe, 1991 that Planned Parenthood versus Casey came along. And there's one crucial bit in the justification for the decision that this perfectly illustrates what we're all talking about. Quote, "At the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own concept of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. Beliefs about these matters could not define the attributes of personhood were they formed under compulsion by the state." In other words, we can all be our own popes now, and you can believe whatever damn fool thing you want to believe, and the government can't compel you to believe anything else. And so we eventually go from that to winding up with people demanding that you respect their pronouns because they're transgender to otherkin. This is a direct devolution. When you say that we just believe that God gave us these rights, but you can believe in whatever God you want to believe in, all of a sudden that document means nothing.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand. Like, say if you're an alt-right proponent of race theory and all this kind of stuff, but you also believe in natural rights, and you're an atheist. This is a very popular position in the YouTube sphere, but it makes absolutely no sense. On what basis do you have rights if you are an atheist? They're completely arbitrary. They're ad hoc. They're subjective. And this is a point I've been making for a long time, that one of the problems with classical liberalism, you just hinted at it, Davis, right there, is personhood. So when this comes up in the debates about pro-choice and pro-life and whatnot, let's say you're a libertarian or a classical liberal of some sort, and you believe in liberty, you believe in personhood, you believe persons have rights. If you don't have a worldview that gives a context for how there's such a thing as personhood, and I would say that it really only makes sense if you're made in the image of God. If you're not made in the image of God, then you're just kind of an evolutionary bubbling forth with no meaning at all. It doesn't really matter. It's just nature just eats nature, right? It's like an Ouroboros eating its own tail. It just eats itself. There's no place in this for rights outside of just will to power. And that's what, and all of these positions that remove the transcendent, and that's what you get in classical liberalism, because it starts with the individual. That's its autonomous, self-evident maxim, is the individual. That's where it starts. It doesn't start with anything to do with the transcendent. Once you do that, you have no basis for any objective, immaterial moral standards, or even other things like law, mathematics, all these things that are immaterial. You've already negated the possibility of that because you start with a purely material sphere.
See, the classical liberals, what they do is they replace theology and philosophy. They replace it with legalism. See, if you take a monarchy and you ask the king to have an opinion on whether or not the morning after pill, the king is probably going to say, you know what, I don't want to touch that kettle of fish. You know what? And it doesn't affect me. You know, I'm still getting my taxes. We've defended the border. I'm more concerned about standardizing the system of measurements used in grain shipments than something like abortion. I don't care about anything until it starts affecting society. So
quantification, yeah.
Exactly. There is no need for the king to have an opinion on something like that. But with classical liberalism, with modern republicanism, there is this demand, this totalitarian demand that it have an opinion on everything. Instead of God being the final arbiter, it winds up being the Supreme Court. And so in this case, the Supreme Court has said, we don't want to have an opinion on that. They recognize that having an opinion on this would be totalitarianism. But instead of enacting an attempt at just totalitarianism, which probably would have turned out terribly anyway, they said anybody can believe whatever the hell they want, So now we're each our own little king. And so, this is exactly it. It becomes the will to power. Your ability to manipulate the system. I was saying this last night, that you get on the one hand, you have the smart, charismatic people that manipulate their way into golden parachutes. And then you have the big mass of people that are dumb and ugly. So all they can do is vote for socialism. But it's this will to power, because there's no overarching authority. There's just what you can get away with in court.
Yeah, I'm about to do a talk on tonight, actually, or tomorrow, on Jürgen Habermas of the Frankfurt School fame. He has a book called Theory and Praxis. And the reason I'm doing that book is because we talk a lot about Frankfurt School, and this gets bantered about, but not many people actually go through the actual books and look at what they say. And what's amazing about Habermas is that he's a huge fan of America. He's a huge fan of Americanism, precisely because he correctly understands America as having a central position in revolutionary thought and global revolution. So he wants to see, he accurately sees that out of classical liberalism, you basically get two strands of revolutionary thought. You get the communistic Marxist strand, which would be people like Weishaupt. You get Mazzini. You get Antonio Gramsci. You get the Frankfurt School. The other side of this dialectic is the capitalist. This is the right-wing Masonic lodge of Edmund Burke, and you get the what are called Girondins. This is the founding fathers of America, right? The Jeffersons, the Franklins. These are the right-wing revolutionaries who want private property and they want their bank accounts. They don't want to share their wives unless you're Ben Franklin and you want to fuck old women, which is what he was a big fan of. But
grannies are gray at night.
So what I'm saying is that Habermas, here's this preeminent Frankfurt School critical theory Marxist who's a big fan of America because he believes America is just another flavor of the revolutionary classical liberal tradition, which, whether it's global homo capitalism or global Fabian socialist Marxism, really doesn't matter, because it's like H.G. Wells said, he says to his fellow Marxists, he says, "You Marxist idiots, how else do you think that the utopian global society will come without the engine of global capitalism?" He says global capitalism is the engine that will bring our socialist world order, because it will flatten all the cultures into a monoculture. So the essence of all this is again, that I think we have, if we really want to reject modernity, I think we have to question classical liberalism.